was on the other one. I just want to make sure we don't skip her if she needs to attend.
Yeah, okay, I'll check on her. Thank you.
Okay, and I see it doesn't look like Shauna or Travis joined us either. I hope I sent it to them. Let me just make sure that I sent it to them as well. Oh, yeah, goodness knows, I must have put everyone's name on twice. I don't know how I did that. I'll just forward it to those two because I probably didn't. Okay, so what I had started to say is we recently added a whole bunch of new functionality under the user settings. And so, and I think this came up, you guys had, you couldn't have your plan numbers sort in numerical order. So that's all stored under the user settings now. So for anyone who's signing on for the first time, if you want to change your password, you just click this. So again, to get to user settings, I clicked my initial way over here on the right, and then you'd put your new password in here and confirm it and click save. The other things that are available under here, though, that are really, really I love are the ability to sort various transit applications. So I've chosen to sort my everything in descending order based on the last time it was updated. And that's because I do a lot of content creation in transit. And so by doing this, all of my content that I'm working on is always at the top. So whether it's a plan or whether it's a module or whatever else, I always sort on the updated date in descending order. But the other options that are available is you can sort by category, by name, by number, ascending or descending. And so when you get used to using transit, you'll probably make more use of this and figure out how you would like to have it sorted all the time. So if you sign on to transit and fill this in, every time you sign on to transit, it will reset to whatever you've put here. Versus if you're in the middle of a day and you've chosen a certain sort and it's not something that you want to keep forever, then it will go away. The other things in here are setting up if you want to receive email notifications from transit, if you want to enable texting. So by law, we can't fill this in for you. So if you want to receive texts during testing, if when you're due up in a step, you can choose to receive a text and you would fill that in here. Then also down here, it says for test rounds, do you want to be notified by email or text? So those settings go together. So first of all, under here, you would say that you're agreeing to get phone notifications. Here, you'd put in your number. And then down here is where you'd say during testing that you want to receive it. So there's a few things available under user settings, much more than used to be there. So I would encourage you to, after you start playing with transit, figure out how you want things to be displayed to you. Okay, so now to go back to workflows. If I were going to build a workflow from scratch, what I say is add workflow. And I'm going to do what I usually do, which is demo ED arrival via ambulance. And you can give it a description. And the vendor that you're going to use. I'm not sure. I think we probably built yours as Cerner-Oracle. And if at some point you want to just change it to call it Oracle, that'll be something that somebody has admin access would be able to go in and update for you. And then you give it a category. So this one is an emergency workflow. So I'm going to give it a category of emergency. And let me quickly check and see whether or not we've built categories for you or not. So we did. So we've uploaded categories. And if you don't like these, we can change them, but they're organization wide. So you guys will have to decide, if what we've built so far isn't good, if you want it to be different, or if it's okay the way it is. Okay, so when I saved on that, it brought me inside the workflow diagramming tool. So inside the workflow diagramming tool, it brings you in this read-only mode. If you want to edit it, you click Edit Workflow and it brings you inside. We build everything in TransIT in swim lanes, and the reason we do that is because the idea of a workflow is to help it generate your test scripts. So for it to be able to help you generate test scripts accurately, you need to tell it who is supposed to do those test steps. So this first swim lane here, I'm going to say is the ambulance attendants. And I'll click Save on that. So that's on each swim lane, there's options available. So the options are to add a swim lane above, split a swim lane in 2, add a swim lane below, split a swim lane in 3. I've never used that. Delete. And this one here is really important. This one we'll show later on. And this one is for if you have content coming in from somewhere else, be it a screenshot or be it an Excel spreadsheet or whatever it is, this is how you can use the snipping tool to help bring that content in. And then this is the icon I just showed, which is the assigned position icon. Over here, when I created my workflow, it defaulted in the name of the workflow, and this is the toolbar that I talked about. So in creating this workflow, I'm going to use several of these, and then we'll talk about the other ones that I don't show. So the first thing that's going to happen in my workflow is the ambulance attendant is going to call the EDRN about the inbound patient. So that's just a manual step. So nothing else to do in this workflow except that. So now that I've added that, I'm going to add my next thing. Well, since the ambulance attendants called the nurse, when I let me do that again. When I add a step, when I click here, these are the icons that are available to add to the workflow diagram. And so when I hover over it, it puts it where it's going to put it, but I don't want it there. So I just click and drag, and you can see it gives me the blue line so that I can line things up. So I'm going to say right here that I'll go and add my position. So this is going to be my EDRN that was just called. Oops. And I'll select my EDRN position and save that. And so what the EDRN is going to do is they're going to complete the pre-arrival document. And so once I've put that box in, I have the ability to go in and add content behind that. So this is for the demo. This isn't what you'll be doing today because we haven't built any content for you. But if I click this icon where it says assign module or outcome, it brings this up and I have the ability to choose content that Make has created in the background, or I can say, no, I only want to use my own content. It defaults to associate module. If I don't have content ready, but I wanted to put something in here to remind me what the outcome was of completing the pre-arrival document, I can tick this and it'll let me type free text in here. Or if I've looked for a module and I couldn't find one, I can actually create a new module here. So this is one of the most powerful parts of the workflow diagramming, is the ability to, while you're documenting the workflow, to create what the steps are in the system for it. But right now, I'm going to go back to the associate module and I'm going to look for if I have something for this. And I do. So I have completing a pre-arrival form in the emergency department, and I'm going to choose the one. This one here is from Make's content, and this one here is from this organization's content, and I'm going to choose that one. And when I click save, what it does is it's going to pull up here the form that, or the content, the module, and show me what the steps are. So I can drag this out, and you can see this is the pre-arrival document in Cerner. So you click the add patient icon from the toolbar, you select pre-arrival, you put in some information, put in some more information, and then you click OK, and then it adds the patient to the tracking bar. If in this preview window you said, oh, geez, this isn't really what I wanted, we can close out of here. I could go back here and I could put in the real module that I wanted. But this is the right one, so I'll keep it. This icon over here allows you to preview the workflow that you're creating. And by preview, I mean, this is what is being built in the background so that when you get ready to build test scripts, this is what it's going to pull in. So the first thing it's going to pull in is a manual step that just says the ambulance attendant is calling the EDRN. So there's nothing in the test script for that except that manual step. But then it's telling you that it's going to bring in the module called form, complete, pre-arrival ED. And so, sorry, is that something for the call or no? Okay. So then when I go back to my diagram, I can continue to build things. So the next thing that's going to happen is going to be a manual step again, which is that the ambulance attendant is going to arrive. My typing is great. Okay, so again, that's just a manual step. So we're going to come down here and then, and when you don't line things up correctly, you can just move them over. And so what the EDRN is going to do is they're just going to so again, another manual step, but we've identified another person who needs to participate. So I click over here and I click this icon to add a lane below. I click here and I add the position to it. And now the first thing that the registration clerk is going to do is they're going to complete a quality search. So when they complete a quality search, they're going to have two options. Either the patient's going to be found or the patient's going to not be found. So what I did here was I clicked my decision box and it added this. When I was here, I clicked this and it added this one, and then I clicked it again and I added this one. So now what I can do is I can go back here and I can say, okay, I'm going to give it a name, and the name is, what was my question? Patient found. So when I did the quality search, did I find a patient or not? And so this is going to be my yes, I found a patient. And this is going to be, and what I'm doing here is double clicking the bar, and this is going to be my no. So if, and I like to put them close to the decision box. So if I found the patient, I'm going to do a quick reg. And if I didn't find the patient before quick regging, I'm going to do an add patient. And then after I add the patient, I'm going to quick reg. Now, all of these are things in the system. So I'll go again and I'll look and I'll see if I have anything for this. So this is a patient search, and I do have one. So I'll add that. Add patient. I'll look and I see if I have something for add patient. And I do, and I'll add that. And I'm pretty sure I have a quick reg, so I'll go and look and see if I have that. And I do. And you can see it keeps on popping up as I'm adding the module. So again, you can confirm if it's the correct one or not. So now that the patient's been quick regged, the EDRN, oops, they can attach pre-arrival document to chart. And I'm sure I have something for that. And then now there's, because they've done the pre-arrival document, the next thing that they're going to do is they're going to ask another question. And the question is there a bed available? And again, there'll be two options. There'll be the answer yes, and there'll be the answer no. And either way, after that, the workflow is going to end. So to attach the arrow, you take it and drag it up. Whoops. When you make a mistake, you do Control Z and it'll remove it. So I take the arrow and I hover it over here and then it'll attach itself and I just drop it. So if the bed is available, they're going to update the tracking location. And if there isn't a bed available, they're just going to direct the patient to the waiting room. And either way, our workflow is done. So this is the yes. So I double click the row and or the arrow and I put the yes. Here I double click the arrow and I put no. This one does have a piece of code. So I look for yeah, it's not liking my typing. So you can see now we've put on all of the pieces of this workflow. And so this workflow would be considered complete. So at this point, the things that you would do is you would go out here to this edit details and you would say, and there's also an ability to build custom columns into the workflow to decide what other things you want besides our standard in here. So for example, in my demo domain, I've added the ability to assign a workflow for somebody. So if you're working on a workflow and it's across work streams, you might have somebody work on it first and then assign it to somebody else to review. And then also we like to put in who the business owner is for approval. So we've got statuses built for you, I'm sure, for workflows. So if I go to the org setting for, these are the statuses that we've built, and you guys are going to have to decide whether or not you like these workflows or whether you want them to be changed to something else. But so far what we've got is when you create a workflow, we default it to not started. If you want it to be something else, you could, for example, default it to in process, whatever you want. I probably have similar workflow statuses built. And so this one now, I would mark it as ready for review, because not only did I build the workflow, but I also put content in beside it, and then we can just save it. So now, if I look over here at this preview, then this is what it shows. I know I've taken much more than the 5 minutes I was supposed to take, but I'll show you now what the importance is of attaching all those modules. Over in this scripts area here, if I wanted to build a functional test script, so I want to be able to test that workflow, then I go here and I give it a name, and I'll probably call it the same thing. And I'll give it the same category of emergency, and I click save. When I'm inside here, all I have to do to build my functional test script, because my workflow is complete, is go here and bring in that workflow, and it's going to ask me if these are the positions I want. So in a workflow, you can attach multiple positions to a swim lane, but when you're bringing it into a test script, it's going to ask you to reconfirm that that's the one you want out of the multiples. I click save here, and I click save, and it brings in the entire workflow. So it's going to make sure that when your analysts go to test this workflow, if it changes, that they test all of the decision trees. So I have, first of all, a patient was found, yes, and a bed was available, yes. So you're going to test that part. And then we've got, if we scroll down, we've got patient found, yes, but bed available, no. So it's going to be the same workflow, except that you're going to not do the tracking location update. When we scroll down farther, it's got patient found, no, bed available, yes. So this is going to have both the tracking location update and that add person in the middle of it. So it's going to be a little bit longer workflow. And then at the end, we've got patient found, no, and bed available, no. So this will have that add person in it, but it won't have the tracking location update. But what you've done is, by building workflows and building your test scripts from your workflows, is you've made sure that the analyst doesn't have to think about what to test. They don't have to think about all these decision boxes. It automatically built the script for them. So I'll pause and I'll ask if anybody has any questions about that.
I do have a
And
question.
sure.
Okay, somehow I missed it. When you're adding like the reg clerk, how did you add that section?
So to add in the reg clerk, all you do is I have to go back and edit again. You click here and you click this icon over here and it allows you to assign the position. So now I'm not sure how many positions we've built out for you. We might not have built any as a matter of fact yet. So if we go and look at positions, so we haven't built positions for you. So we'll have to get a list of the positions that you use for the various systems. So not just your clinical systems, but your ERP systems, and we can load those. So for today, when you guys go to build that position, what you'll have to do is double click here and just type in English the name of the position. And then if Leo or somebody gets us a list of the positions that you use that you want added to the system, we'll upload them. But for now, you won't be able to do that. Click here, add it from the swim lane because you have nothing built there. Does that make sense to everybody? So I'm going to take silence for yes. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that. And actually, that also helped. But I was asking about the whole square. How did you add the whole square?
Oh, these squares?
Yes.
Or this squares? Like
No,
the
there
whole...
was two. There was two. But when I kind of missed that, I don't know what I was doing when you
Okay,
were adding the
so
reg.
if you're wanting to add in a swim lane, to add a swim lane, you click over here and there's 4 different icons depending on what you want to do. The one I used was the add swim lane below, add lane below.
Okay.
And then it
Thank
just adds a lane. So we've got a new lane here. If I don't want that lane, then I just click the delete icon and it gets rid of it. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the items on the toolbar. So you've seen a lot of them because I've played around and built this workflow. The reason I wanted to build that workflow first was for you to understand the power of what the workflow was and the fact that by adding these pieces of reusable content that we call modules to the workflow, it's going to speed up your test script creation process phenomenally. The other thing it does is speed up the maintenance of test scripts phenomenally. Okay, so this is our toolbar here, and it sort of tells you what the different icons are. So this one is for, it's called the hand tool, and it moves the workflow around. It didn't matter in this one, but some workflows are extremely wide and extremely long, and so it helps you drag it to where you want it to be. This one here is for moving pieces. So if you notice here, I intentionally put these low. Okay, so if you're looking at it, you think it's really bothering me. I really wish that was aligned with the other. I take that tool and I circle the pieces I want, and then I can just move them up to where I want. So you see the blue hash line was showing me when I was lined up. So now I've got the blue hash line both directions and I can just drop it. So that's this tool here, and it's called the lasso tool. Really great for Texas, right? I don't think we named it for you guys, but we can pretend. This one here is my create remove space tool. So when I activate this tool, you can see here, I got all this extra space that I may not really want. So when I click here and I drag up, it removes that space. But where it's really, really good is where you haven't left enough room and things are crunched up and you want to move them. So I can activate it here and drag it over and it'll add the space. So that's the create and remove space tool. Really, really important when you're creating workflow diagrams and you like to be a perfectionist and you want everything to look great. This is if you wanted to activate the connect tool. I've never used this from here because usually when you're wanting to connect something, you're right here and you're just going to use the arrow that's available here. The only time I've ever used, no, I can't even think that I have used it, to be honest. This is if you wanted to drag a start element, a start event onto the screen. It automatically defaults with one start, so you normally don't do that. And this is the end tool, and you don't normally do that either because you could see here when I clicked, whoops, I shouldn't have done that. Hang on. When I clicked here, the end was available here. So I've never really brought it in. These two tools, though, this is if you want to connect to another workflow. It doesn't do anything from the script development standpoint at this point. In the future, it might bring in a workflow into your test script. But right now, if, for example, you wanted this to not be an end and you wanted to say, you want it to go to, for example, the triage workflow or something, what you would do is you would drag this on that says outgoing workflow. You would drag it on here. I could get rid of this end, and then I would just double click here and put this as my triage workflow.
So that we would use if we wanted to break down a really long patient stay into
Correct.
like an ED
Yeah.
visit, a
Yeah.
ICU visit, and a discharge, right? Okay.
Yeah. So in this case, this is like the arrival via ambulance isn't the end of your workflow because they're going to go and do the triage next or whatever. So instead of putting this end here, I could put my triage icon. So here, the reason it's doing this is because I expanded this so you can see it. You can see I can drag modules back over so it doesn't show. So here now I could use my arrow and connect here, and then my other arrow and connect. So this outgoing workflow and this incoming workflow do not exist in my items here. So I have to select those from the toolbar. This is the gateway icon, but you can see the gateway icons available here. So I don't normally bring it in from here. This icon is if you wanted to drag in another box. Again, normally I wouldn't. Normally I would bring it in from here, but they are available. This icon here is if you wanted to show, for example, that at the quick reg that it generated, you know, a consent form or whatever, then you can put this on here and you can connect it. This icon here is if you wanted to show that the quick reg sent an ADTA 04 all over the place, then you could put this on here as well. You know, but it doesn't do anything other than add to your diagram. This last icon on the toolbar is for circling items. So if you wanted to come up here and put this on here and say that this was pre-arrival and that this was post-arrival, I can put these boxes on. So I personally don't use these very much, but they were requested by a client, so we've added them. So that's everything in the toolbar. So now, hopefully, when I was doing all that talking, everybody did get signed on. And all I want you to do is go to workflows. So you'll be here, and there's a couple workflows here. So everyone's going to click workflows, and you just need to practice. So you're going to go here, and you're going to do add workflow. When you do that, it's going to bring this up. You're going to fill in whatever you want here. If you brought something with you to try out, you might as well give it that name. And for now, we're just going to practice probably for less time than I originally hoped, for probably about 10 minutes so that we have time to look at some of the examples you brought, and I can show you other ways besides creating from scratch to bring workflows in. So if you have a question, put up your hand and we'll try to help everyone. Okay, so Leo has a question. What's your question, Leo?
Back on the tool, you had the circle with a black arrow and a circle with a white arrow. I was answering a call, so I didn't hear
The
what you said,
difference
what the
is,
difference was between
yep,
the two.
so one is outcoming and one is ingoing. So as an example, if I used it today in a workflow I was doing for doing staff scheduling. Before you do staff scheduling, you're going to want to review all the staff requests for time off. So I used my incoming one instead of the start, and I associated it. So just like here where I put triage workflow, I brought this in, I dropped it, and I added to it that this was review request process.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And so I can't type, but there we go. So again, it's just so that you can tie it to another workflow. And then again, from here, you can just do your arrow. Whoops, did the wrong thing. You can choose your arrow and attach it. So if everyone wants to, like I said, go to workflows, click that add workflow. Remember, when you do the add workflow, as soon as you come into the workflow, it's going to be in a read only mode, and you're going to have to click the edit workflow to be able to edit. And so all you're supposed to be doing now is starting with that existing diagram, going into edit mode, playing with the ability to change the swim lanes, add swim lanes, drag things in from here, or start with the existing ones that come and use these icons. And we'll give you till 2:50 so that I can quickly look at show you some of the other ways to bring content in. And again, if you have questions, please either raise your hand or put things in the chat, and we will respond as quickly as we can. I'm going to pause the recording now. If somebody has a question, I'll restart it, but just so that you won't have like a 10-minute hole in your... I'm pretty sure if I stop it and start it again, it's going to be one video. Does anybody know that for sure? I paused it, and if it ends up being 2 videos, we'll send them both, the links to both to you. And maybe I'll cheat too. Maybe I'll only give you another 4 minutes to play around, because I do have a few more things to show you, and you've got access to TransIT, so you can play whenever you want. One thing I didn't mention as well is when you have any element highlighted, there is a delete icon. The other thing I didn't show that isn't available on the side here, that's only available here, is adding a notation. So again, you click it and you drag it to wherever you want, and you can make it whatever size you want, put in whatever text you want. So once I've got it there, I can, if I want it to be only a single line, I can drag it so that it's wider and then resize.
Hi, Patty. This is Mercedes with El Paso Children's.
Uh-huh.
I do have a question. I created a while back the one that's called the EPCH Emergency Medicine, ERRM full registration.
Uh-huh.
But I've seen that there's an extra box added to that I didn't add.
So
The one on the very bottom. And I
Okay.
just deleted it, but it's still showing up.
Okay,
Hey,
so
Mercedes,
when-
that was me. This is Alex.
Oh, okay.
I'm
So let
sorry I
me
messed
show
up
you.
your
No,
work.
that's
No,
fine.
that's okay.
That's
So let
fine.
me
I just
show
wanted
you.
to understand how you showed up.
So
It's
that's
okay.
so I didn't show you that. This is on all TransIT pages pretty much, and it's called the changes, the view changes. So if you click here, you can actually see who accessed your workflow and who made those changes. If you wanted
Sorry,
to
can
get
you
back,
go back to how you got to this? I'm sorry.
yeah. So if I
Okay.
click here, you see this icon, it looks like a scroll.
Okay.
That's our change log. So it's available on all pages. So on plans, on workflows and modules. And if you click that, it will tell you who changed your workflow. Good thing you fessed up, Alex. But it'll show you who changed it. And if
Okay.
you wanted to, this was one of the things I was going to show. So if you wanted to restore yours, then you can go to this one, and you say, yes, this is the one I want. So this icon over here is going to let you, it's the download menu. If I click here, it's going to give me options. If I download that to XML, then I can upload it again to exactly like this. But let me show some other quick things here. Whoops. So if I go back inside here, you can see like it is, you have to really play with it to know the tricks of the trade, let's just say. So this arrow here, like it's sometimes hard to get them to connect. And so once you get it connected though, you can like move it around to make it sort of how you want it by just dragging it. The same with this one. And it does take a while to learn how to move things around. Oops. You know, you might not care if they're straight or not straight. And then like if you want to get rid of anything, you can just highlight it. Or you can use, like I said, this one here. So if you didn't want this at all, whoops, then I can circle it and delete it. And then to delete this row, I can click delete here.
Right.
Again, like, so arrows just take a while to get used to. So you see when I hover, it gives me this bar versus when I first, it's going to give me the bar all the time now. So to drag the bar up is, you know, then it just kind of makes it more visually appealing.
Okay. I don't want, I mean, I don't have to remove what Alex added, because if it is part of the workflow, I'm okay with leaving it. I just wanted to understand how it did show up. So that's fine.
So this one here, where you're having them really go to an off-page workflow, right? This is completing the full reg. So this one, you might want to take this outgoing workflow, take this box off and put this one on, and then put full reg as what the workflow name is.
Right. This row.
Yeah. When you delete this box, it's going to get rid of your yes and no arrows, and you'll have to put them back.
Okay.
And sorry that
And I
played
did
around
this
with
a little
yours.
while ago before you did
Yep.
the training, so I
Yep.
was just playing
Yep.
with it.
And everybody's welcome to play whenever they like. Like there's nothing you're going to hurt. You can see that even if Alex did hurt your workflow and you wanted to get back to it, you could just go there. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to show you a couple of other things. So let me say, suppose that, you know, this, you know, somebody had gone in and screwed up my workflow and I didn't want this to be the workflow. You have the ability to go, like I showed you in this change log, and download any of these versions to be a download file for you. So if I click it, it's going to show you what that looked like at that time. And I'm going to say, oh, yeah, that is the one I wanted to restore. So now what I'm going to do is going to go to the download menu, and I'm going to say download it to XML. When you say download to XML, it's going to ask you where you want to download it to. I'm going to leave it here in my downloads folder and say save. So once I've done that, when I go back into that workflow, if I want to get rid of whatever anybody did and replace it with mine, I go to this replace workflow, and then I'm going to find it on my downloads folder where I put it. And I'm going to open it, and I'm going to click replace workflow, and magic, my workflow's back. So that one you hopefully won't have to use very often, but it is good to know that that's available. The other time when that's really useful is if you are using a workflow diagramming tool now that has the ability to generate an output file in XML, that's BPMN format, then you wouldn't have to recreate any of these. You would just export them for your existing tool and import them in. So the other thing I'm going to show is that there's an ability to bring in other documents. So this is an example of, let me just drag it all to my, ooh, it's getting stuck not wanting to drag. Okay, so this is something that I hand wrote on a piece of paper, and I intentionally didn't make it so beautiful. But if you have something that you've taken a shot, this was like I hand wrote it on a piece of paper and I took a screenshot of it with my phone. So if you wanted to bring this into TransIT, what you can do is use the snipping tool. So if snipping tool is native everywhere now, so you do Shift Windows S, and it'll turn on the snipping tool, and I go like this, so it's saved to my clipboard. I come back to my workflow, I go over here, and I use this icon here. So I do paste, and it brings in my image, and it's going to take the text from there. It did a really good job. Like one of the things on my picture I intentionally made like nurse, that you couldn't really read it very well, but it actually interpreted it correctly. If it hadn't, I could edit the text here, and then I click save, and it's going to bring each one of them in as a separate box. So you can do that in a handwritten format, or if I had, let me see if I have any Excel files with anything in them. Yeah, maybe not bring in one of those. Let me see if I have something here. So, this was when we did the stuff before. So I can do the same thing in Excel. I can copy those, any rows, and I can go back here. Oh, sorry, I didn't. Excuse me. You have to do it with the snipping tool. So I was wrong what I did. So if I go in here and I do it with the snipping tool and highlight these and come back over here to the workflow tool and do the same thing. I'll do it down here because there's more space. And I can paste that in, and it's going to analyze what I pasted. Oh, so it said it couldn't do it. It didn't like that I did. It's telling me that that wasn't available. I have done it before though, but maybe it was because there was more text in the box instead of just a few words. So scratch that one. It didn't like that. And I showed you how you can replace it with an XML file. The other thing that I'll show is if we go into, to a workflow designer, somewhere I have a workflow designer.
Patty, you might be thinking about snipping from a PDF. Text
Yeah,
from
no,
PDF.
no, but you can do it from an Excel. I've done it before there as
Okay.
well, but oh, maybe you're right. Maybe I did save it as a PNG first. Okay, so this is like one that's like your typical workflow designer one. And so the same thing here, if you do a snippet, you're probably right, Travis. I probably did a snippet from the Excel. So, but I just did. No, it must be that it was so few words. So if I save that to my clipboard and then I come back here, then hopefully this one will come in. Okay, it didn't save my snippet. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not liking my snippet. Any ideas, Travis, on why it's not? Let me open that again. Cancel it here.
Try and refresh a page and start again.
Yeah, maybe. refresh there.
Sometimes when I've been doing a lot, and one thing errors out, I just have to refresh and.
Yep, I did. I
works.
refreshed. So pointer from Travis is if it, oh, it looks like I didn't go down to the bottom of the page. Oh, well, we'll just do this part. Again, it's just going to bring it in as boxes, so you'll still have to do all the moving around. But if you've got a large workflow diagram that you don't want to have to type everything, this will save you a lot of time in doing the typing for you. So if I click save here, it's going to create all of those boxes. Again, you would have to move them in the direction that you wanted them to be. And, you know, it's bringing in the number and all those other things. The last one I have is doing, so this is similar to what Travis was saying, you know, if you have a PDF of something, or in this case, it was, I think it was done in Visio or something. So you have to size it down so that you can see everything on the screen. And I've not tried this before to see if it, I don't think it's going to interpret the swim lanes for me. I think it's still just going to bring it in as box. But if I go over here now, and if I add another swim lane to put this into, then it's going to be able to bring the content in. So usually when I'm doing something from Workflow Designer where it's huge, I just do a small piece at a time. But you see, this did a really decent job of bringing everything in from that workflow. So it didn't bring them into the swim lanes. So I would still have to go back to here and divide it into swim lanes. But certainly that was much easier than me having to type all that text. Okay, so that was the last thing I was going to show. And you guys didn't get very much time to practice, but I hope that you'll take the opportunity to practice between now and when we do the class, because the idea would be when we go to do the full training of TransIT, if as many workflows as you have in here is going to make it easier for you guys to do your test script content. So when I go back here, you'll see hardly anyone has built a workflow yet. So really, you should take the time, take a few minutes, try to take a workflow. Does anybody have an example of something that they brought that they want direction on how they could possibly bring it in the last few minutes? Oh, you're going to kill me, guys. I forgot to restart the video. Or the recording. I will put that video out and I'll send it to you, Leo, with the link to YouTube, or should I send it just to the whole group to save you time?
You could send it to the whole group.
Okay, I'll send it to the whole group. Okay, so again, the reason we put this class on is because Ray was really hoping you guys would start building workflows out here so that when we get to training, you've got some good content to build on.
Now, this is a spot where we can all play, right? This isn't
Absolutely.
our
So
production.
that's one more thing I'll show you. Under here, under projects, Tamara has loaded all of your active projects, but there should also be at the bottom one called deleted and one called archive. Archive is when you create a template for something and you want to get back to it. Deleted is when you're playing and you want to get rid of it. So when you go to workflows, if there was something you created that you didn't like, all you have to do is right click, change project, click deleted and archived, and choose the deleted. If you've created something and you want to keep it, but you don't want anyone else to play with it, you can move it to archive. And then that'll remove it from view and then you just bring archive back.
So no, that I guess that wasn't my question. I guess what I was asking was, are we going to be playing in a sandbox, or you want us playing in production?
There is no sandbox. So you only have access to production, and that's why you would move it to the deleted project if you play. So what I would say is if there's something you want to keep, leave it in the current state project is normally where, so if I do add workflow, you don't have a default set. So let me quickly set that for you.
Yeah, and we don't have positions in yet either.
No, but if you can, I don't see current state there.
So when you were doing the workflow, you were in your own environment? Because
I was, yes, I was in my demo area.
Okay, everybody needs to understand that, because when they go to click on the spin wheel to assign a resource to create a swim lane, it's blank. So I've created a couple of them for me, but you guys will need to go in there and
well, they don't have access to create them, so they'll have to let you know, and you can create them.
Do you have a download of the ones that you have and we can review them and kind of standardize them? So we're not duplicating
Well,
efforts? Because what'll
here's
happen
what
is we'll
here's
all
what I would
call the same role
I,
5
oops.
different things. And if there's something already tied to that.
So there's nothing really tied to it. So what I would say is, you know, if you can get your core analyst to do an export of your Cerner positions, and if you can get, you know, whoever is the manager of your ERP systems to get an export of their positions, then we can show you how to upload those. Okay, I'm not sure what happened, why somebody got rid of your current state project. So I've added it back and I've actually made it the default.
Okie dokie.
So that means when you, so current state, meaning that it's your actual current state, right? And so if you do a project, so say you did a project to do an upgrade to your existing Millennium system, you would create a project for that upgrade. And I think Tamara's created a whole bunch of project for you. But now when I click add workflow, it's going to automatically default into current state. And so that's where you typically keep your current workflows. And then if you're building workflows for a project, then instead of having it be the default, you would just click the drop down box here and pick your project. Does that make sense to everybody? Hope so. Okay, and so Hold
on, I'm sorry, I was talking and I was on mute. If you're adding a brand new project that you want to do a workflow for and it's not listed in that project list, the drop down, where
they
do
have
you
to,
want?
They have to, so if we go over to your user file, only an admin can add a project. So if we go here and we look at the users and we filter on admin, or I sorted on it, so the only people who can add projects now currently are Danny, Leo, Ray, and Sandra. No one else can add them. But I think like this is supposed to be what Tamara built here, I thought was the list of all the projects you guys had on the books.
Yeah, so I don't think that's true, Tammy, because we've been able to add projects and we're not one of those people.
Who's been able? You are. You were one of the 4.
I am, but I know that there's the other portfolio team. The portfolio team is able to add projects as well.
They shouldn't have this icon. The only way to add a project is with this icon.
Okay. Well, when you say add a project, we add them in the plans. We don't add them in there. So now I know what you're saying. Never mind.
So sorry, when you...
I know what you're saying now. Okay.
So you can add a plan, but you can't add a project. The projects come from that drop-down list.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So in the email that I sent everyone today to remind everyone to try their access out before the class, there was the support email address for Make Solutions. And so if you have any questions or if you get stuck, please email that email address and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I'm sorry I turned off the video halfway. I just thought you wouldn't want the 10 minutes in the middle. I will send the link out to everyone after the call. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.